Welcome back to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast. On today's episode, we found a really cool interview with Lee Milteer and Dan Kennedy, talking about Dan's life as a child and growing up and how it affected his views as an entrepreneur. Talked about his parents who, when he was young, had a lot of money and then they lost it all. I think some of the things how it impacted him and his decisions and how he's run his business since then. Talked about his family being very entrepreneurial, having a lot of books, and a whole bunch of other really cool things. So I think for all of us who are either in the beginning stages of our entrepreneurial journey, or maybe we're in the middle of it and we've got kids who are watching from behind, or just maybe you're curious about Dan, I think you're going to enjoy this episode. So that said, I hope you enjoyed this interview with Dan Kennedy.
I don't think there's anybody that has had a bigger impact in the field of direct response than Dan Kennedy.
The legend of Dan Kennedy should be ignored at your own peril.
They're not really lessons, they're kind of laws that you live by.
Dan opened my eyes to what small business marketing looks like.
Dan teaches strategic direct response that is timeless.
His ripple effect touches people who don't even know his name.
The world as we know it was changed because Dan Kennedy became obsessed with marketing.
Welcome to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with your host, Dan Kennedy.
All right, well, we're going to talk about your new program just a little bit. So why don't you give us a little hint about that?
Well, we're talking about Game Changers DNA, which is all about influential communication and the power of influence and how to drive business through the power of influence.
And everybody has a little button up there. At any particular time, you want to push that button so they can actually get this.
But don't too many of them push it at the same time.
That's correct.
Or, we're down to sending in orders only by people who have pigeons.
Hey, and Dan, we can see ourselves up there.
Oh, that's very cool. That's just great. Yep.
Both of us are used to doing real television.
Damn, I look good.
Yes, you do.
From a distance in a tiny little box on a teleprompter from 4 miles away. Up close, not so much.
Not true. I guess I got hired for this gig because you and I have been friends since the beginning of time. And we know each other very well, and a lot of people really don't know a lot about, Dan's history and his past. They know about a lot of his teaching, but he has a great autobiography, if you ever want to read it, called Unfinished Business. But today we're going to have some fun, and you and I talk on the phone all the time, and we both joke it would be career killers if that was ever publicized.
I told you, it's my exit plan. Big money. Big money.
But
live, unedited recordings of our phone conversations.
Which are quite
You
wild.
want to see a launch, Betty. You want to move some merchandise. You get the rights to that stuff. You get the rights to that stuff.
We're pretty brutal. But
now, it does have to be the last thing we ever sell.
Do. That's correct.
But
so a lot of people, don't realize you actually had a childhood. They thought you were, born already grown. Let's just talk about your childhood and how it shaped your view of life.
Well, the primary thing probably, so first of all, there is accident of birth, right? And so some people have a good accident, some people have a bad accident, not just the accident. I didn't say the accident of conception, Betty. I said, she's like laughing over here in the corner. I didn't say, which I'm sure was accidental, by the way, but I'm not talking about it. I meant accident of, good birth, bad birth, born in a ghetto, born in a good place, born in America, born in Bosnia, whatever. My parents were entrepreneurial. They were self-employed. So there was that, sort of conditioning from the beginning, which I think is helpful. But in the book you mentioned, so I talk about Bob Kiyosaki, his whole rich dad thing.
Poor dad.
So he had two. I had rich dad, poor dad, one dad. So we had, when I was very young, we were very, very affluent. For the time, the home-based business was probably in the mid-six figures, 150, 200, maybe $250,000 a year, which, in 1960, that was a lot of dough. And so consequently, a new car every year, a Rambler, but, I would argue with their choices, but nonetheless, new car every year. And big house and, a full-time housekeeper running around, doing stuff.
Speaking of house, I think we have a picture of like the first house.
Oh, you got that stuff?
We got the picture of the old house and.
So we were very well to do, and lived in an affluent. Well, see, that's the not well-to-do house.
That's the old house.
That's the house moved to. There you go. Now you got the new house, or the first house actually.
Looks like a Tudor house.
Yeah. And the baby's, it's pretty big. My bedroom was, essentially the size of an apartment. You had a walk-in closet. You had a 2-room suite. You had 3 stories. We had a clothing chute, a laundry chute,
yes.
where you throw the stuff down the laundry chute and it winds up at the bottom. Just throw my cat down there. Before everyone gets mad, A, the cat liked it, and B, they got 9 lives.
Okay,
what's the big deal?
We have an audience here. It's called Betty. It's
fabulous. Yeah, I know. It's great.
Keep going, Betty.
Yeah, it's great. And so, in a fairly short period of time, maybe a 6-month window, for a variety of reasons that aren't all that important, we went from that to the other house he showed, which at its kindest description is ramshackle and rural.
I've seen that house in real life too. You're right.
And quite poor. I mean, not starvation poor, but poor enough. And so I had rich dad, poor dad, same dad. And I think that not that you would wish it on anybody, but I think that that experience was in the short term painful, in the long term useful.
Yes.
It breeds prudent paranoia, which, a lot of people, if they start their business life at a certain point, they have nothing but run up. So like right now we're in ugly, but if somebody started their business in 1980, 85, they really haven't seen. I mean, the Clinton recession was like, barely a blip. I mean, they really haven't seen anything but run up, and then having to deal with the ugly kind of as a sudden event, as a 35 or 40-year-old adult. A lot of people don't handle that well. So I think it was useful for that reason. It was useful because you figured out how to make money.
Well, you were paying attention.
Well, yeah, you were paying attention, and so that probably is if you're looking for formative childhood experience, that's it. I mean, I spent time as a very young kid in the affluent neighborhood. Almost everybody was entrepreneurial, agricultural entrepreneurial. We weren't agricultural. Everybody else was. So we were in Brooklyn Heights, Ohio, which was the greenhouse capital of North America. So down the hill behind everybody's house were these giant greenhouses and tomatoes and lettuce and strawberries and all that. And so everybody else owned farms, if you will, but not farms with like pigs and cows and stuff, farms with vegetables. And we were the only non-agricultural owner on the entire street. Very different business. But so everybody was kind of entrepreneurial. So your whole childhood was around people very self-reliant, very responsible, no set work hours. You worked until the work was done.
Right.
And you were pretty much on call 24/7. And, so work ethic, self-reliance, the whole idea of essentially eat what you kill, so you better kill something today or you don't eat.
Right.
Metaphorically, and for the agricultural people, real. And I don't, I wouldn't trade that. I think that's an advantage, and I think that inevitably, entrepreneurs tend to spoil and baby their kids.
Yes.
And try and not put them through any of this that they went through, and pay their way for. And I think it's just a gigantic mistake. I don't think anybody should have a new car until they've had an old bad car and they know how to keep it running, or are able to convince somebody to keep it running for them. So at least they learn, influence and sales and persuasion.
Negotiation
which is
skills.
in my case. I mean, I never could change a tire. I still can't change a tire, but I can talk somebody into changing a tire.
Yes, you can.
Which, if you can talk people into stuff, you don't really have to know how to do anything. So, but that'd be the big.
That's a great line. I'm going to use that.
That'd be the big. Well, I mean, it's true, right? I mean, if I mean, there's that, and if you really understand influence, so you don't need talent or skill either. So if you look at the Kardashians, I mean, $68 million last year. They're on track to double it this year. They have no visible talent. They have no visible skill other than showing up.
Right.
They're the only asset of the entire family is really a very big asset. But, it's not an asset involving any talent, but yet all this money and totally based on influence stuff, marketing stuff, brand, personality, audience, et cetera. So, but yeah, if you know how to talk people into anything, you don't have to actually know how to do anything. There's 3 ways to make money, right? You can work, you can make money through money, so you can stack up money and you can invest it, although right now, lots of luck, but, or you can make money through other people. And so influence is all about how can you get other people to do stuff.
That's right.
So people ask how I get, I have one employee however many thousand miles away, but I have a lot of people doing stuff that causes money to move to me, that really it's totally through influence and relationships. It's not through employee.
So how were you? You were about 12 when you went from wealthy to...
Yeah, I lose track of the exact timing, but is like 1 year before junior high, whatever that is.
So what did you, when you were growing up, and we all know that we get stuck with kind of bad stuff from our parents. So what did you have to unprogram from yourself, from your parents, and you're growing up?
Not much, other than, which I mentioned many times, I got, in part through those latter years, I got really, really good at survival skills, living well, relatively well, with no money, which eventually catches up to you, but you can go a long ways. But they get in your way then of prosperity skills, So I saw the prosperity skills, but then you had this window of time when there was no prosperity and they defaulted to another skill set. And so, high school years, that's what you saw. And I got really good at it. And as a general comment, it's people can get really good at a skill set, not necessarily those, but at any skill set, that then gets in their way of progress. So salespeople tend to get so good, the good ones get so good at selling, that gets in their way of moving on to marketing. And if they're really good at persuasion, it gets in their way of moving on to influence because we default to our stronger skills, right? So like I work right now with a group of high-end financial advisors, and they're all very, very good one-on-one closing a sale, right? So they will tend to just get me a body in front of me, and I'll do the heavy lifting. And so that and they can, right? So that gets in their way of now using more sophisticated marketing that relieves you of the need to sell hard, close hard, overcome objections, all that. That makes you more efficient because you're only in front of people who are predisposed to purchase on a 1 to 10, they're an 8, instead of spend a lot of time with people who are 2s and 3s, which takes more time, exhausts you, exhausts them, et cetera. So, but the fact that they're so good that they can, like I say, I can get a check out of a rock, right? So the fact that they're that good now gets in the way of developing the other skill set. And so, that happens a lot. But other than that, I did not hear things at the top of the stairs that were, that I would say were counterproductive. I heard capitalist free enterprise philosophy. I heard self-reliance. work ethic. I never heard victimhood. There was very good acknowledgement that the mess they found themselves in was of their own making.
Really?
And so, I never heard the, it's the economy, it's the president, I never heard that. I mean, basically an industry disappeared out from under him. But with 20/20 hindsight, A, you could see it coming, and B, there were choices, that to make about that, of which he chose the worst of the possible choices, and hence consequences, But I never heard that sort of victimhood stuff. So there wasn't really any deprogramming, to do. The reason you asked the question is because, of course, most people have a lot of deprogramming,
right?
That they need to do. I mean, using something like what's in this product that we're supposed to be selling. So there's a button there.
Yeah, push that button.
Push the thing. We can all go home.
He's not kidding.
We can end this early.
Keep laughing, Betty. We love that.
We can end this early, everybody. Put enough people push that button. We can all go home. A lot just using the stuff that's in this product. So a lot of people are essentially programmed that manipulation is bad. Therefore, manufacturing influence is a form of manipulation. It's bad. And so while people may not consciously recognize that it's there, it's installed anyway, and now it starts to get in everybody's way. So, it's certainly a reasonable question. But I actually didn't have it. I didn't have a lot of deprogramming, to do.
Did your parents, read a lot, or did you see them educating themselves?
Yeah, we were an information household. So, like, you've been to my house, so you see, like, the books alone.
Thousands of books.
Well,
the story about you, Joe Polish tells, is that you could hardly get to Dan's house. You couldn't get through the house because there were hallways that the books were literally lined up and down the hallways. And he said to me, seriously, how could he have read all those books?
Well, see, that's probably half of what we had.
Oh, his house is unbelievable with books.
In the house I was when I grew up. I mean, so yeah, we were bit as books, and in poor dad times, you went to the library twice a week.
Yes.
So everybody loaded in a car.
Yes.
And everybody went to the library, and everybody picked out books and brought books home. And dinner topic conversation wasn't what did you do today? It was information. It was
this is what
debate.
I read.
It was and big personal development stuff early. So in part because as business aid collapsed, amongst other things, my parents were in an MLM, a network marketing company, and so that led to, Think and Grow Rich, Earl Nightingale, all of that. And so my first success product was the Earl Nightingale's Lead to Field,
right?
Which I bought used from the family attorney who described it as useless junk. So I bought it used, and I don't remember the price now. I haven't written down, but it was on like payments $5 a month for 6 months or something, and it was in a big briefcase then, and it was records. So that's pre-8-track. And
I think most of us know that.
Which now, well, most people don't even know what a record is. So I think I told you that of the 3 cars I had, the collector cars I had, that 72 Javelin, and at the track one night, there's a young kid, 19 probably, and I come out of the barn, and he's like got his head stuck in it. He's looking at it. He's fascinated, and he calls me over and he says, "Well, what's that?" Well, it's the crank you use to wind a window up and down. You don't know what that is.
Oh, seriously?
So just mystified by that. So,
That's sad.
So don't be betting that everybody knows what an 8-track is. You might be shocked. But yeah, it was records, which, the bad news about that is when you're trying to listen to them in the car, the needle jumps all over the damn place. But, so I was exposed to that stuff, very early. And again, the fact that it really, quote, quote, wasn't working for my parents at the time, I was sort of 14, 15, 16, I was really aware of behavior on their part that was defeating them, that had really nothing to do with this content. Out of the entire Lead to Field program, the
Earl Nightingale's program.
Yeah, which again, most of the people don't know. You can go Google them. You can Google them while we're talking, I guess.
No, don't
lose sight of the button.
Push the button.
But Earl said, so out of the whole Lead to Field program, Earl said, if you don't have any models, if there's nobody around that you can look at, observe, be mentored by, study, whatever, who is getting the results you want, doing whatever it is you want to do, just start by not doing anything they're doing, because 95% plus are statistically wrong in life, particularly about money, which they are, because 95% of the people are some degree of broke, 5% have all the money. And despite everybody's effort to redistribute it, it doesn't make any difference because money moves for its own reasons, right, including influence. So I heard that at a time when I had no models. And so I got it. I said, okay, that makes abundant sense to me, right? Because everything I'm seeing is not getting anybody where they want to go or where I want to go either. So you don't know anything else, you just start doing the opposite of what everybody else is doing. And, there's a path to a roadmap. So so now that piece, to give credit where credit's due, that piece is still, a principal tenet of what I teach today is contrarian opposites. So you violate industry norms. Why? Because 95% of the people in any given industry, in any profession, in any business, statistics guarantee you they're wrong about virtually everything they do. They're wrong about advertising, they're wrong about marketing, they're wrong about persuasion, they're wrong about sales, they're wrong about pricing, they're wrong about everything. So if you didn't know any better, just look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. So I got exposure to all this stuff very, very, very early. And I wouldn't trade the MLM experience for anything either. It's not a business I chose to stay in because it is predominantly a business where all of your income is entirely dependent on trying to get dysfunctional people to perform, which is
challenging.
Well, it's somewhere between social work and sainthood and all that. But it's a great training ground. I learned a lot in a short period of time, and I was relatively successful. So I wouldn't even trade that.
The one thing that's interesting about everything that you've said is the whole training ground thing and the attention that you pay to the whole process of thinking and right thinking and human potential and what's possible. I think a lot of marketers today really poo-poo the whole thinking process, and even though you talk about it a lot in all your teachings, somehow there's so many people who just think it's BS.
Well, it's very easy. It's even easier today. It's very easy to really get focused on the toolkit.
Right.
Okay, the box of tools. Right. Now, it wasn't as easy when I was coming up because we had less tools. Right. So you didn't get lost in them as much. Right. Right. And the business I came up in was, built for not tools. It was built for manual labor. So face-to-face and small group meetings and all that. But But still, you had less tools. So when I really started in direct marketing, I mean, you had mail and you had print and broadcast, radio, TV, but extremely limited.
You couldn't afford it.
Well, you couldn't afford it. And television, you only had 3
channels.
You didn't have cable. So, very limited amount of time available. Radio, you did not have talk radio like you have now. So direct response radio didn't work very well for the most part because you're interrupting music. It doesn't work. So, but now that's it. I just described, everything. I mean, you really could, it was very hard to do a conference call. I mean, I remember all the way into the late 70s, we would do these conference calls at the end of a day of seminars when everybody's supposed to be getting everybody else to come next week. And you did them by like 6 people in a hotel room on that phone and 6 people in the next hotel room on that phone.
Oh, how painful is this? Oh, wow.
Each running a conference call with only 20 or 30 people on it. And then the speaker, you or I, would run from room to room and jump on this call for 5 minutes and then run over there and just see, like this, what we're doing today, none of this existed. None of it. So you didn't get lost in the toolbox as much.
Right.
So it's very easy to get lost in the toolbox. And think that if you just had one more tool.
And that's what most of them think.
Yeah, and so salespeople always think that about sales aides. So, so if there's a sales manager watching, because nobody else likes this joke, but if there's a sales manager watching, this is for you, right? So this is people are arriving at hell and they're in line and they're checking in at the front desk. And today Satan's running the front desk. So the first guy gets up there. Oh, he's bored. So the first guy gets up there, and Satan says, here's the deal. You're here for eternity. It's really miserable. It's awful. So we try. Well, the one thing we try and do is give everybody like one thing they really want to try and make this just not totally awful. So what do you want? So this is a big old fat boy. He says, you can tell I like to eat. I got to have food, right? I can handle the heat, but I got to have food. Satan says, well, good news, We got an opening in the buffet for a dishwasher guy, and the benefit is you get all the food you can eat. So you go into the buffet room. So the next guy standing in the line, he's got his shirt open to his waist, bunch of gold chains on. He's got his sleeves rolled up,
The
He's got he's got the Elvis hair, And so Satan says, what's your story? Guy says, I'm a sex addict. I got to have sex. I can handle eat, and not like that guy. I don't eat much, but I got to have sex. Satan says, well, good news, because we got an opening for a towel boy in the brothel, and so you go in there, and the benefit is all you can. So now the next guy comes up, and he's suit, tie, he's carrying a attaché case. Satan says, what's your story? He says, I'm a salesman. Satan says, what do you want? He says, another brochure. Now, so
That's so true.
So, it's the same thing with other tools, right? So people, A, they get lost in the toolbox. They think it's about the tools. And B, they think if they just had one more tool, right?
Yes.
And so so what we've been talking about in this launch is the shiny object syndrome, right? There's either a tool I don't know about, or there's a tool I don't know how to use, or, there's a new shiny object. Oh, mobile marketing. Oh, if I just had mobile marketing, right? Then that would be the thing. And that's fine. You want a good toolbox, and you want to use every tool that is profitable and productive for your purposes to the fullest extent that you can use it, or get somebody else to use it for you, which is even better. But still, if you study success and successful people, first of all, you find out that the higher up the money pyramid you go, the less they are using tools. And actually, in many cases, the fewer tools they use. But even setting that aside, the bigger issue is that it is more behavioral than it is anything else, and all the way looping back to your advocacy of what people diminish as the attitude stuff. Well, all behavioral is triggered by attitudinal, right? So your belief system creates the box in which you operate of what you will do, won't do, can do, can't do. And that now governs how you can use tools. So if you give a toolbox, so if you give the whole internet toolbox to a monkey, right? You know, the old joke, if you give a monkey a typewriter, you know, which is, you know, true, and it's probably truer now that you only need 146 characters. A monkey did it quicker. But still, it might be a long time before the monkey got a coherent tweet together, right? No matter how great a toolbox we give them, because it's a monkey, right? But so if you give a toolbox to somebody who is either not very smart about them or has a belief system that has all sorts of limitations in it, it doesn't. So you give me a home repair toolbox, you know, hammer, wrench, screwdriver, you know, that stuff. Well, I have a belief system that I can't use any of that stuff, right? So it don't matter whether you got one of them tool things in the garage with 500 drawers in it, like my brother's got, with every tool you would ever want, right? Or we got what we actually have in the house, which is one hammer and one set of pliers. Doesn't matter, because I'm not going to use it anyway, right? And if I do try and use it, I'm going to screw it up because I believe I'm going to screw it up. So again, I have a guy. So I don't have a toolbox. I have a guy who hangs pictures, fixes things.
Jim.
Yeah, exactly, Jim. Comes over, changes the light bulbs.
You and I are always talking. Jim's here.
I got a guy.
Here.
Yeah, he's the lowest paid, most essential person in my entire world, right?
Jim is always here.
If he only knew how essential he was,
he'd charge you more.
He'd be rich. As it is, he just gives me an invoice once a year that says, "Here's what you owe me."
Okay.
And I just write him
a check.
Yeah. But so the toolbox is only as useful as thought and behavior, right? And specific to the influential person toolbox, that requires a better belief system than does, say, the real mechanical toolbox of send out an email, set up a website, you know. Okay. So to discount that is a huge mistake. And so there are celebrities, for example. So Dolly Parton, self-improvement books, self-improvement tapes, head trip stuff. Trump, self-improvement books. Drew Carey, auto ship at Nightingale Conant. Charge a card, ship me whatever you come out with. There's a lot of people that people don't realize are, if you will, into that stuff. They don't talk about it. They don't make a big deal about it. But they are into it as a driver of their good set of tools. And to discount it is a huge, huge mistake.
Well, speaking of toolbox, we actually have people watching us, believe it or not, Dan. And is your Game Changer DNA program applicable to newbies? And what is the best way to start?
Oh, so we're getting chat questions.
People are really watching and everything.
Now, did we really get a chat question, or are you making this crap up? Oh, we really got.
We really got that. Everybody's going, no, it really didn't.
Well, newbies to what, right? I mean, presumably you're walking upright at this point. So
you can think.
So newbie to what? But if you may need that.
Thank you.
If you, if somebody's new to a business, for example, the real question is all the way back to what business are you in? And so most people get in businesses for all the wrong reasons. Right? So they either get in a business because they like they confuse the deliverable with the business. So they get in a restaurant business because they like to eat, or they like to cook, or they like what they saw in Cheers, hanging around a bar and your friends come in. Okay? They think that's the business. That's the deliverable. It's not the business, right? The business is actually acquiring customers, keeping customers, etc. So somebody opens a pet store because they like pets, right? So they either get in business for that reason, they get in business because somebody sells them a business, right, in a box, right, or they get into business because they think it's going to be easy. Right? So a lot of people get in online businesses because of that reason. They think it's going to be easy.
Because that's what they sell it.
Well, of course. So that question really gets all the way to the pregnant question of what business are you really in. So at the lowest income level, the business and deliverable is the same. So the guy who's a carpet cleaner, one guy, he's got his equipment in the back of the station wagon, and he's got, well, not station, he's got his equipment in the back of the minivan. I date myself. He's got his equipment in the back of the minivan. He's got a business card, right? He answers his own cell phone, and he actually cleans the carpets. The business and the deliverable are one, right? This guy's never going to make a lot of money, right? Now, if he doesn't want to make a lot of money, that's fine. Not everybody wants to make a lot of money. But if you want to make a lot of money, the first thing you got to do is de-link the deliverable from the business, right? So then now the question is, what business are you in? Well, so as you start to climb up the money ladder, the first sort of big leap is to understand you're in the marketing business, not in the business of your deliverables, because everybody has to market what their deliverables are, and there's more money there than there ever is in providing the deliverable itself. So that's like the first leap, but it's actually the little leap. So as you climb further up the income ladder, you get more and more and more into the influence business, even more so than the marketing business or the sales business. Because influence causes people to want to seek you out and buy from you. Marketing is you going out and convincing people to come and give you money. Well, there's no reason not to be in that business from day one. Right? So if somebody's a newbie getting in a new business this week, you still get to decide what business you're in this week. Are you going to be in the deliverables business? Are you going to be in the sales and marketing business? Are you going to be in the influence business? What business are you going to be in? And if you decide you're going to be in the marketing and up into the influence business, then yeah, everything in the Game Changer system applies to you today just as it would to somebody who's been in that business for 25 years and is making that transition for the very first time. Because a lot of people keep deliverables and business confused for 50 years. You know, they just keep repeating the same stuff, you know, over and over again. I don't remember what the second part of the question was. It was, and you already, we got a new one.
We have a new question.
The next one. I don't remember. Do you remember what the second part was? Well, just tell us. Just yell it. Okay? We're not doing real TV here.
No, I don't think there was.
What's the best way to start?
What's the best way to start?
Push the button.
Yeah, well,
push the button.
Push the button. Yeah, push the button. Push the button, yeah.
That's the best way to start. Push the button.
I rarely quote liberals, but I forget now who it is, but there's a liberal, Carville quotes them, that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today. Right? And so you start like, yeah, and look, getting started. See, most people never get started. You know, they buy stuff, they never take the shrink wrap off. I mean,
most of them, yeah.
As you know, I used to be in the business of manufacturing product for everybody, and we used to joke all the time that, you know.
What is it, 10%?
No, 8-cassette program. You know, first of all, you're only going to get refunds from about 10% of the people if you just deliver blank tapes. Okay? If you put something on the first one, the other 7 can be blank, and your refund rate drops to almost nothing because hardly anybody gets back the first one.
Oh, wait, I have to say that. So if they called in a year later, you say, oh, it just disappeared.
Oh, no, it's a defective unit.
It just
Sorry.
disappeared.
We'll replace it. Yeah, it's a defective unit. So, you know, most people just don't start. They go to a seminar, they go home, they go right back to doing what they were doing before.
Well, they talk themselves out of it.
Yeah, for all those reasons. So if you actually just start, you know, and you do something every single day to move forward to wherever it is you're trying to get, it's the Woody Allen thing. 50% of success is showing up, right? Now, the other 50% is pretty critical. But the first 50%, show up. Do something.
All right, let's do this. What is the best types of marketing to test on a limited budget?
Well, everybody's got a limited budget.
Exactly.
Except the government.
We won't get you started there.
That concept is, you know, beyond them. They're still having arguments every day about what to spend how much on.
Right.
There's zero, so, you know, this is, I mean, It's an argument we did not have in our family, by the way, for a number of years of which thing to go buy. It was, we're not buying nothing, you know. I mean, there's no point in having this conversation because
no,
nothing. Yeah. So everybody's on a limited budget, right? Now, what the person probably means is like really limited, right? So if you're severely limited, the best thing to do, unfortunately, is manual labor. Now, you can still do it smart instead of stupid, right? So, you know, you're going to get on the phone and call people. There's a good script. There's a bad script. There's call a good people. There's call a bad people. So manual labor can be done smart or stupid. You know, manual labor is not the worst thing in the world. So I was just at, so we'll get back to the question. So I was just at the Jackson Barrett collector car auction in
Did you buy something?
Vegas. No. No, I got, you know, more than I needed. I almost bought something. But I didn't. So they got the car auction going on for 3 days. And there's spectators, but pretty much everybody who's at that car auction is pretty affluent. And so there's a big exhibit hall, right? Now, there's the exhibitors you would expect, of course, car stuff, right? But Tempur-Pedic bed has a big exhibit there. Doesn't have anything to do with cars, but it's a real expensive bed. And there's people there who have a lot of money. Perfect. And they're going to be wandering around for 3 days with nothing to do. The massage chair
Excellent.
guys are there,
We love
right?
those.
Real high-end cosmetics. So 5 distributors from a real high-end company, they're there working, right? Well, okay, it's manual labor. You're going to be on your feet all day, but you're in the right place with the right customer. You're the only one there because nobody else is smart enough in your category to do it. So, I mean, if you're on a real limited budget, you do manual labor until you don't have to do manual labor anymore.
So you can influence someone else to do it.
Yeah,
for you.
well, yeah. When you ask the question of which things are best to test, and you're having a marketing or advertising conversation, there is no good general answer to it because it's situational. Almost no tool is in and of itself a bad or a good tool. Hammer's fine if you want to drive a nail. Real bad idea if you want to do cosmetic surgery, right? Scalpel, same deal. Dumb thing to try and drive nails with. So a billboard can be a good tool. It can be a bad tool. It's situational, right? It's not particularly a good marketing tool in most cases, but it's a great discourage the competitor tool. Local market. So this answer requires examination of all of the options so that you understand everything that's available in the tool chest and essentially what it costs. Okay? And then you pick and choose based on both your limitations and your situation. The good thing in the question is the word test. And the game of testing in marketing is you want to test and eliminate what doesn't pay as quickly and cheaply as possible, especially when you're on a limited budget. So, you want to wield the swift sword, because you can't afford to be patient.
Or attached to it.
So, you get good point. You can't be emotionally attached at this point to what you like, what you want. Your likes and dislikes in marketing, by the way, generally don't count.
Right.
You don't get it. The only people that get a vote are people that give you money. Right. Your mom doesn't get a vote. Your employee doesn't get a vote. You don't even get a vote. I mean, I do all sorts of stuff I don't personally like because I don't like doing this. And by the way, may I point out, it's friggin' manual labor, which is the second reason I don't like doing it. And the third reason I don't like doing it is because it's the internet. So there's all sorts. I don't like doing this.
Yeah, but they got me here to make you laugh.
Yeah, so what? My dog makes me laugh. You know, I mean,
but Lady doesn't ask good questions.
No. But she listens.
Just very closely.
There was a Leno's deal in his routine. It was, why guys like dogs, because dogs look like they're fascinated with what it is that you're saying to them. Whereas cats, guys don't like cats because you're talking to the cat and the cat walks away. So that's the end of that. Now, I don't know why women like cats. I haven't figured it. But anyway, so swift sword, no emotional, no attachment of any kind. We're just trying to find what works and what doesn't work as quick as we possibly can. That's what testing is all about. So the first level of testing goes all the way back to manual labor, right? So if you're on a limited budget and you're going to create marketing media, so you're going to create a webinar, you're going to create a website, you're going to create a sales letter, you're going to create an ad. Well, make it a script and find some place to go present it to some humans and see if they buy. Right? So, before you spend a bunch of money running a full-page ad in a magazine, get 12 people in a room who are the same kind of people who would read that magazine and pitch them and see if you can sell to them. If you can't, then you got to fix the pitch, right? The second thing about testing to understand, so this is now real specific marketing education, so everybody was worried I wasn't going to teach anything. So...
they keep changing questions because they're obviously getting tired.
Yeah. By the way, more questions. As you understand, she's looking at it, I'm not. So all you're doing is making her nervous. So,
I'm not nervous. I like this next question.
So I'll just teach this and then I'll stop. But the other thing to understand about testing is lots of other people have already tested your premise for you. Okay? So if you don't have much money, you really want to make sure you leverage everybody else's money that they've already spent, either gathering up an audience, okay? So that's why you want to rent mailing lists of buyers, or you want to go exhibit at Jackson Barrett where they've already gathered up a bunch of rich people with more money than brains who like to buy stuff. So you want to leverage their money. You want to leverage testing. So in print, for example, let's say you got something you want to sell to backyard mechanics, garage mechanics, and you're thinking about advertising in Popular Mechanics magazine. Or even you're thinking about not being in the magazine, but being at their website. And you're going to buy banner ad or whatever it is you're going to do. For God's sakes, go get 3 years of Popular Mechanics magazines, which you can get at the library for free. Look at all the ads, and look at all the ads that keep running over and over and over and over again, and the ones that only run once or twice, and you never see them again. The commonalities in the ones that only run once or twice and you never see again, you don't want a repeat. The commonalities in the ones that run over and over and over again, you do want to repeat. Now, you've benefited because they've tested. Direct mail, so sophisticated direct marketing companies do zillions of split tests, right? So pick a category, alternative health. And so now let's say you're a local chiropractor with no money. You got a limited budget, and you want to promote your practice with some kind of advertising. You're going to do Valpak. Well, let's go find out what the alternative health newsletter guys are doing, which you can see online for free because they all got websites, and then you can sign up for their free email, and for a few bucks you could subscribe, and then you're going to get mail from everybody because the list gets rented. Let's go see what they're doing to sell a health and wellness message because they're running $1 million worth of tests this year. Okay? So Boardroom Reports with health newsletters will spend millions of dollars this year testing to get down to the control piece that you get in the mail 6 times over a month that you know is the one they're using all the time. Well, now I can benefit from their $1 million worth of testing without having to spend a penny. There's a website called InsideDirectMail.com. Pros use it. It's an archive service. So as a copywriter, let's say I'm going to now write copy for a bunch of chiropractic practices. So let's say for Chris Tomczak, a member of ours, so his health source company, which went from 4 clinics to 360 some odd clinics in 3 years. Okay, so let's say I'm going to go write copy for him for a headache offer, right, for a chronic headache offer. I can go to Inside Direct Mail, and for small money, I can get copies of every direct mail piece that's selling anything related to headaches. The control, the piece that is being used by that company again and again and again and again and again. So I don't got to test. They've already tested. I can get their testing. And they spend $1 million on it, and I can get it for $3. It's like photocopying cost plus $39 or something for a month. Right? So there's all sorts of ways to benefit from what other people test. And so when you don't have money to work with, A, there's certain things you can't do. That's true. And that's why it's really good to get money. Okay? B, you got to be really smart. C, you probably got to do manual labor. And the last thing is, which you sort of alluded to, again, and it gets into our topic of influence. If other people have customers, OPC, other people's customers, is actually better than OPM, other people's money. I'd much rather have access to somebody's really good customers than I would access to their money. Because with their money, I still got to go experiment.
Right.
With their customers, I don't have to experiment. Okay, now, what did you get excited about?
So I'm excited about why don't you have a reality show? Because it would ruin your career forever.
Yeah. For the most part, people would be really disappointed.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, you'd have to rig it like Simmons rigs his.
Oh, they're all rigged. They're all scripted and rigged.
I mean, there's not much to watch. I mean, I get all the time. Can I pay you to just come hang out and watch what you do for a week? I'm going, almost whatever you pay, I will have raped you. Because, I mean, there ain't much to see. I mean, I work. So 7 o'clock in the morning, not looking pretty for cameras, so we would have to fix that if we were doing reality TV. But I'm from bed to coffee cup to downstairs to computer if it's a writing day, right? And pretty much I don't move, much to my physician's distress, by the way.
Well, you could always get one of those treadmills that you type on. Yeah, right.
He's already suggested all that. We're negotiating and he's losing.
I'm shocked.
So on a writing day, I mean, I pretty much don't move. So I'm sitting in a not particularly appealing place. I'm not moving. Lunch break, and I'm there all day. Well, what's that to see, right? On a call day, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm from bed to coffee cup to chair and phone, and I don't move until like 7 o'clock at night, except for, Vicki now has given me like 2 10-minute breaks during the day and a 20-minute lunch break.
And if the
God
dog's
bless
home.
her. Yeah, well, the dog, on a call day, the dog comes and sits, and, but, so there's nothing there to see. I mean, what are you going to watch? What are you going to
You're
watch?
a writer. You're a thinker.
What are you going to watch?
Because you make all your money here.
And so that's one reason is there'd be no show, right? I mean, secondly, that's a lot of manual labor. I mean, to give her a practical answer, it's a lot of manual labor, and it's very hard to make it direct response measurable. So from a marketing and labor investment standpoint, I've always been about brand identity, influence, influential positioning has a free byproduct of direct response, which has measurable return on investment. And so I am loath to involve myself in activities or invest in media that doesn't have that component part. I'm not really interested in buying brand identity, buying influential positioning, and then sort of chasing it and trying to figure out how to make money from it behind it, or believing on faith that it is somehow overlapping and helping other things. I can't watch baseball because there's all those guys getting paid, but there's only 2 people working. Right? There's a pitcher and a hitter. Everybody else is a spectator, right? But they're all getting paid. I can't stand it. At least football, at least they're all moving. They're all running, and they're all running into each other. Okay? So I can watch football. I can't watch baseball. It drives me crazy. Okay? So same thing. I can't stand investing time or money in something that I can't measure the productivity of. So that's the second reason that I wouldn't do it. Third reason is nobody's asked.
Okay.
Which is, see, that's not an insignificant answer. Because a big payoff of sufficient influence is you don't have to pursue anything.
Absolutely.
Is people are coming to you.
You're attracting it.
And you get to choose. But people are coming to you all the time wanting you to do stuff.
Yes.
Right? And so seriously, nobody's asked. You know, I have not been invited. Now, my whole attitude about everything else I just said might change if I was invited. And they offered me enough money because I'm a dancing monkey for the right amount of money. You know, you put enough bananas on the table, baby.
Dan will be there.
I'm here.
Okay, well, before we go anywhere, there's little buttons up there that we need you to push.
Oh, are we going to a break? Oh, goody. A break.
A break.
Break.
Okay, so we're going to go in a break in a minute. All right.
In a minute.
Just a minute. Okay, well, I'm afraid to ask you a question in a minute. But one thing that you talk about a lot that a lot of people don't catch is the word work. That, you know, Dan really, really does work. And we've been friends a very long time. And, you know, we do talk during the day. And, you know, I can attest to the fact that you seriously work.
So does everybody else who's rich unless they've stopped altogether.
Everybody who's successful works.
I mean, Trump is at it at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he's at social events that are actually not social events at least 6 nights a week. Now, there's a golf game here in it, but, you know, and he's flying in a private jet, but he's working. Okay? And so I am, as you know, extremely distressed by the whole how can we do the least amount of work possible for the most amount. You know, first of all, I think you ought to find things to do that play to your strengths and that you enjoy doing or find interesting to do, and the two are not necessarily synonymous. For example, I don't enjoy this, but I find it interesting.
I'm enjoying it immensely.
Well, good. You know, but so I think you ought to find something to do that is not like tedium.
Yes.
That you have to force yourself to do. And then you got to understand that, so you break the work-money link of hours for dollars and all that, but the idea that you are somehow going to get unearned success through magic, mysticism, toolbox, whatever, is very detrimental to people. Their pursuit of that hurts them. And then we'll take the break. So at the speaking gig, this is very tall, friend of Joe's, very tall gal, good-looking gal. And so I said to her, I said, you must have, because she stands up and she's like my height, you know. And I said, you must have trouble getting dance partners. And she says, yeah, and I'm working on manifesting that right now. And I didn't say anything because, you know, why, you know? But I said to somebody after the fact, I said, you know, she can go sit in a corner and face the wall and try and manifest a dance partner who's 6'2", all she wants. The best she's going to get is a short homeless guy wandering past her, you know. I mean...
you need to get out there.
Do
something.
Yes,
do something.
Yes.
Show up.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with Dan Kennedy. If you love hearing in on these lost Dan Kennedy talks and speeches and calls, then please let someone else know about this podcast. That's how you can help it to grow. And the more it grows, the more free Dan Kennedy we can bring to you. Also, Dan would love to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to help you make maximum money in minimum time. Now, this free gift comes with almost $20,000 in pure money-making information for free just for saying maybe. You can get this gift from Dan right now at nobsletter.com. Not only will you get the $20,000 gift, you're also going to get a subscription to 2 marketing newsletters that will be hand-delivered by the mailman to your mailbox each and every month. One from Dan Kennedy and one from me, Russell Brunson. To get this gift and your subscription, go to nobsletter.com right now.